voice recorder. Voice recorder. இதோட கிளிப் இருக்கு, கிளிப் அதுக்குள்ளேயே இருக்கும், பிளாக் கலரில் ஒரு பெல்ட் மாதிரி. ரெட் play record, play record, record. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharyamadhyamam Asmadacharyaparyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. In the previous class, we completed the shlokas in the Purva Bhaga up to Nyasa. And all along, in the introduction parts of the classes, we saw that the understanding of Ishvara is in 3 stages: Ekarupa, Anekarupa or Vishwarupa, and the 3rd stage is Arupa. Of these 3, Anekarupa and Arupa are very, very important for those who are Jignasu Bhakta, the sadhakas. Sadhakas meaning sincere seekers who want to know God, who have come to the stage 2 of the sadhana, which is Ishvara Jnanam. From Ishvara Aradhanam, they have come to Ishvara Jnanam, and being Jignasu Bhakta, I hope you are familiar with this term which was introduced in the previous class, and therefore I am not going to elaborate on who a Jignasu Bhakta is. So those who are Jignasu Bhaktas, meaning whose goal is Ishvara and who also have understood that their means to attain this goal is also Ishvara. Ishvara meaning the infinite. Now, though our Sanatana Dharma is so rich in graduating one from the basic level until liberation, somehow in the Hinduism prevalent in the present time, the most popular is Ekarupa, and people are less informed about Anekarupa or Vishwarupa and much less informed about Arupa. And Ekarupa being popular, most of the people are Artha Artharthi Bhaktas, meaning they lead a hardcore material life. They are religious people but with a material mindset. They have a list of goals to be achieved for which they use God as the means. So you want something, and on the other hand, you want to get rid of something. So for both, you make use of Ishvara. And for them, worshipping God means you have to get something. You tell them casually that I went to this temple and this temple was very nice, and I suggest that you go and visit this place once. The probable response that you would get is, what would we get? What does one get by going to that temple? So who is the deity and what he gives? So what I get, what I can get rid of. This is the only mindset that a human being commonly has in Hinduism in these days. And this Ekarupa is so popularized that the second and the third stages, the understanding of the second and the third stages, namely Anekarupa and Arupa, have largely been ignored. And majority are not even interested in knowing. Even if you want to go and tell them, they are not even interested in knowing. And this is precisely what Krishna has spoken about in the introduction shlokas of the 7th chapter to the Bhagavad Gita. It feels like as though he knew what is going to happen, or whether this was itself the case during Dwapara Yuga, we don't know. He says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhayet yatatam api siddhanam kaschim mambeti tattvataha. He says, only 1 in a million will come to understand my infinite form, which is Anekarupa and thereafter Arupa. So he calls each and every one of you as 1 in a million. Therefore, Bhagavan with specific features is Ekarupa Ishvara, or we can say Ishtadevata Rupam. And our Puranas and our scriptures help us to visualize our Ishtadevata in a particular form. For example, you have the Lagunyasa mantra shlokas to Sri Rudram, which describes the form of Shiva. Shuddha Spatika Sankasham Trinetram Panchavaktakam Gangadaram Dashabhujam Sarva Bharana Bhushitam, and etc. So you have a form who is white skinned, Shuddha Spatikam, who is as clear as the crystal, with Ganga and with 5 faces, Panchavaktakam. Therefore, we have God for you even if you are a racist in the beginning. Okay, you have Meghashyamam on one side and you have Shuddha Spatika Sankasham on the other side. But slowly, even if you are a racist in the beginning, the system will ensure that you are out of the racism gradually, because we take you there. You finish Lagunyasa and you come to Dhyanam of Sri Rudram again, Brahmanda Vyapta Deha Basita Himarucha. So all your differences are thwarted there itself. There is no difference that one can see. There is no other Vastu other than Ishvara one can appreciate after he becomes a Vishwarupa Bhakta. Similar to this, we have descriptions of all other deities. Everything is available, whichever form you like, you want to take up. You have the Dhyana shlokas, the descriptions, you have the Bhujangas, you have various stotras that describe their form. And we have a whole mall of deities with descriptions of their forms, of their individual forms. And thus, we have several versions of one Ishvara. It is very important to understand this. We have several versions of one Ishvara in different forms. But why? Because human minds are different. Their preferences are different, their choices are different. Therefore, the form of Ishvara they would like to worship would naturally be different. And our Sanatana Dharma respects preferences and the difference in preferences. Some like male form, some are comfortable with female form, and some are comfortable with mixture, and so on. Now, do we have different forms at all accepted in the scriptures? The scriptures point out that there is only one all-pervading Ishvara. Ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti, Rigveda. Such a Bhagavan cannot have a form because he is all-pervading. He is limitless. How would you have a form if you are limitless? Because form itself means limitation. You need to have a boundary to have a form. Therefore, one who is all-pervasive, one who is limitless, cannot have a form or any feature. Because any feature you name him, he is limited by that feature. And to have, therefore, a physical form or feature means limitation. And our scriptures only talk about that all-pervading Bhagavan. But since many cannot appreciate the all-pervading Ishvara, they are not able to conceive the all-pervading, the formless, limitless, attributeless Ishvara. Therefore, for the benefit of them, he assumes a form, he is given a form for the purpose of puja and dhyanam. It is for this purpose only that Ishvara is given many forms to suit the preferences of different kinds of human mind. And the formless Bhagavan is therefore represented by or symbolized by various forms. We therefore have several symbols. We have many symbols of one formless Ishvara or Bhagavan. We should remember that the forms are given only for the sake of puja and dhyanam. There is a shloka in our scriptures which says, Nirvishesham param brahma sakshat kartum anishvaraha ye mandaha te anukampyante savishesha nirupanai. It says, the real God or Bhagavan is formless and he is an all-pervading being by himself. But for those people who do not have a subtle intellect, a sensitized intellect, a discerning intellect, a thinking intellect, who are unintelligent people, who are unprepared people, who have an uncultivated mind, for them, for those minds that cannot conceive the formless, Ishvara is given a form. For their sake, the scriptures present several forms. So you have Ganesha, you have Subramanya, you have Shiva, you have Devi, you have Vishnu, you have many forms. You have Hanuman, you have many forms. And we are asked to choose one of those forms for our convenience of worship and meditation. So this is not very unpopular that it is there only in Hinduism. Our country is so vast, is so huge, that where one has to pay respect to our country, now you cannot charter a flight and take a big sack of flowers, and you cannot go from Kashmir to Kanyakumari offering flowers all along. So what do? You have a small piece of tricolored cloth and you offer your respects to the flag of the nation. The flag of the nation is not the nation itself, but it represents the nation. Therefore, one salutes or offers his worship, respects to the nation through the flag. It is much the same way that we worship Ishvara, the all-pervading Ishvara, in a particular form. So, all forms of Ishvara that are worshipped are symbols of the one all-pervading Ishvara, he who is all-knowing, he who is omniscient, omnipotent, and we require all this for stage number 1 of the sadhana, namely Ishvara Aradhanam. And Ishvara Aradhanam means puja and dhyanam. Dhyanam is otherwise called as upasana. And when we talk of dhyanam, it has threefold elements. One is dhyatha, the second is dhyeyam, and the third element is dhyanam itself. Dhyatha, dhyeyam and dhyanam. Dhyata means meditator. Dhyeyam means meditated. And dhyanam is the process of meditation. Therefore, there has to be a meditator and he has to meditate upon something. Meditator is the subject and what he meditates upon is the object of meditation, which is called dhyeyam. And when it comes to upasana, dhyanam, the object of meditation has to be Ishvara. It cannot be anything else. It has to be Ishvara. The symbol one uses for meditation can be anything. You can meditate on Lakshmi Devi in a lotus. You can meditate on Saraswati in a white lotus. You can meditate on Shiva in a linga. So you can meditate on Ganesha in a lump of turmeric powder. So the symbol can be anything, but the object of meditation has to be Ishvara. This is very important because otherwise, if you are going to meditate on, if you are set to be meditating on anything other than Ishvara, it means you are concentrating. You are focusing on some object, you are focusing your mind, you are concentrating your mind on some object, and concentration is not meditation. Even under the principles of Ashtanga Yoga Sadhana, concentration is called dharana and meditation is called dhyana. Dharana and dhyana are not one and the same. They are one after the other. The earlier stage is dharana and thereafter it is dhyana. Also, meditation, then what does meditation mean? Meditation or dhyana or upasana is a well-directed, deliberately well-directed flow of thoughts about the object of meditation. One deliberately visualizes to channelize the flow of thoughts in a particular direction that he has decided. Normally, our thought flow are normally not in our control. It just happens. But here the dhyata takes the trouble to channelize his thoughts. And the posture, the way you keep your hands, the asanam, the way you sit, the place where you sit, how you should close your eyes, how you should breathe, and all things are important, all right? They go to support you in ensuring that your mind dwells in the object of meditation. But what is more important in dhyana, more than the posture, more than one closing his eyes or something, is that the mind has to dwell. Dwelling of the mind in the object of meditation is dhyana. And this can happen sometimes in the class also. Okay. So it is so difficult, especially for the teacher, to handle a meditation class which is early in the morning, and suppose the student has not slept well, it can help him doze off. So we move over to the Dhyana shlokas with this background. क्षीरोदन्वप्रदेशे शुचिमणिविलसत्सैकते मौक्तिकानां मालाक्लिप्तासनस्थस्फटिकमणिनिभैर् मौक्तिकैर्मण्डिताङ्गः शुभ्रैरभ्रैरधभ्रैर् उपरि विरचितैः मुक्तपीयूषवर्षैः आनन्देनः पुनीयाधरिनलिनगता शङ्खपाणिर्मुकुन्दः. So this is the first of the Dhyana shlokas, and it is also definitely one of the tongue twisting shlokas for a beginner. So Mukundaha, Sri Vishnu is being worshipped as in the name of Mukunda. Mukunda means one who is happy being himself, which means he does not require anything external to keep him happy. There is no object required to make him happy, which means that it is not that you do something and he is happy about it. He is always happy. He is happy all by himself. He is Ananda Swarupaha. Anandi naf puniyat. May Mukundaha purify us. Naha puniyat. Naf puniyat. When you chant the shloka, you have to chant it along with the visarga. Anandi naf puniyat. Otherwise, what will happen? You will say Anandi na puniyat, which will be the opposite meaning. Naha means us. Naha puniyat means may you purify us. Sanskrit is a highly phonetic language. If you happen to chant it as Anandi na puniyat, it means don't purify me. Okay. So the Devata who is spoken of in Vishnu Sahasranama being Mahavishnu, and in Vishnum Jishnum Mahavishnum a short description was already given for meditation. Here a further elaborated description is given in this shloka and in the following shlokas for the purpose of meditation. Normally Vishnu means he is dark skinned, yellow dress and a reclining posture and all that is normally given. But here he is described without the usual form. He is given a pure white form for meditation. What form? Kshirodanva Pradeshe, in the abode of the milky ocean. Shuchi Mani Vilasat Saikate. Saikate means the sandy shore of the ocean is Shuchi Mani Vilasat. Shuchi Mani means shining new gems, precious gems. The sandy beach of the ocean is shining with precious gems. Mauktikanam mala klipta klipta sanasthaha, and he is seated. He is not reclining, he is seated in an asanam which is decorated or decked with precious gems. So these are, you direct your mind through these shlokas, help you to direct your thought flow while you are meditating, to meditate upon his form, a particular form. Moktikanam mala klipta sanastaha. He is seated on an asanam which is decked with precious gems. And spatika mani nibaihi moktikaihi manditangaha. He is wearing a garland which is made of spatika mani nibaihi, made of precious pearls and gems, and that are spatika, which are clear and luminous white crystals. They are shining in the light. And as he is seated, how is his form? He is asinam. He has asinam, the wheel or the chakra. Nalina, he has a lotus in one of his hands. He has gada. I think everybody knows what gada is, the mace. And shanka, he has the shanka, panchajanya, the conch, in one of his hands. Panihi, panihi means in the hand. Therefore, it is referring to Bhagavan Vishnu, Mukunda, as he is called in this shloka. And Shubrai, Abrai, Adabrai. Shubrai, Shubra means white. Abra means cloud. Adabra means multitude. Uparivi rachitaihi. So, multitude of white clouds, they form a canopy above him. Mukta piyusha varshaihi. And these clouds, may they pour the rain of Amrita, of Mukti. And what should he do? Such a Vishnu who is seated there, what should he do? Naha puniyat. He Anandi, He Mukundaha, may you purify us. So this is a prayer which describes the form of Vishnu and which is also very useful for meditating on his form. Next shloka. Bhuf padau yasya nabhihi viyada suranila chandra suryoscha netre. Bhuf padau yasya nabhir viyada suranilas chandra suryoscha netre. Karnavasha shiraudyau mukhamapi dahano yasya vasteyam abdihi antastham yasya vishvam suranara khakagho bhogi gandharva daityaihi chitram ram ramyatetam tribhuvana vapusham vishnu misham namami. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Very, very beautiful shloka. The previous shloka, Kshirodanva Pradeshe, as we just saw, was a description of Ekarupa, Vishnu in a particular form. And this shloka is his Vishwarupa description, is the description of the Vishwarupa of Ishvara. This shloka, Bhuf Padau, was originally composed by Thotakacharya, who is one of the 4 popular Shishyas of Adi Shankaracharya, in his work called Shruti Sara Samudharanam. And some Acharya must have taken this shloka and added as one of the Dhyana shlokas to Vishnu Sahasranama. This shloka is not part of the Mahabharata, as we saw that the Mahabharata shlokas are over with Yani Namani Gaunani, and after that we had the Nyasa, the Lagunyasa, which were all contributions of the Purvacharyas, and one of the Purvacharyas must have taken this shloka from Shruti Sara Samudharanam. It is not that Thotakacharya copied from Vishnu Sahasranama. Vishnu Sahasranama was given this Dhyana shloka by one of the Purvacharyas. Vishnum Isham Namami. So this, when you split the words in Sanskrit, you have to be very careful, okay? Because the shloka says Vishnu Misham Namami, and Misha in Tamil it means the mustache. Okay, it is not that you do namaskara to the mustache of Ishvara. It is Vishnum Isham Namami. Vishnu who is the Lord. To that Lord, Vishnum, all-pervading Lord, I offer my namaskara. And what type of Vishnu he is? He is definitely not Ekarupa. He is worshipped in this shloka, through this shloka, as the Vishwarupa. Tribhuvana Vapusham. Vapus means body, whose body is Tribhuvanam. The lower lokas, Bhuloka, and the upper lokas. Is his entire body, whose body consists of all the lokas, the entire universe, visible and invisible universe. And what are his limbs? If the entire universe is his body, what make up his limbs? Padau Bhuhu Yasya, whose, Yasya means whose feet is Bhuhu, the earth itself. Nabhihi Viyat. Viyat means Akasha, space. Akasha is his navel. Asuhu Anilaha. Anilaha means the wind. Wind is Asuhu. Asuhu means his prana, his breathe. His breath is Asuhu. The inhalation and exhalation of the Vishwarupa Ishvara, Vishnuhu, is or are the blowing winds. If the wind blows, you are actually experiencing the prana of Ishvara. Chandra Suryauscha Netre. It's easy to understand. The sun and the moon are his eyes. Karnau Asha. Asha generally means desire. Here Asha means direction. What are the directions? Karnau, his ears are the directions, and there are 10 directions. You have the 4 main directions, you have another 4 secondary directions, and then you have up and below. There are totally 10 directions, and all 10 directions are his ears. Therefore, You can never talk secrets. You can never keep any secret. You can never keep Ishvara away from anything. So he knows all that is spoken and he hears everything. Even that you don't speak, even if you have a thought in your mind, he will know it. Shiraha Dhyau. The upper lokas are his head. Mukam api dahanaha. Mukha means the mouth is dahanaha. Dahanaha means the Agni principle, the Agni Tattva is his mouth. And we have this ritual of cremating after one dies. The body is cremated, and when the body is given to the fire, it is like giving it into the mouth of Ishvara himself. And for those who have studied Bhagavad Gita, which we just completed some time back, in the 11th chapter, when the Vishwarupa of Ishvara is described, the mouth of Ishvara is described as the fire, and Arjuna sees the description of Arjuna seeing Bhishma, Drona and all the Dhardarashtras entering his mouth. We see that description there. So that is swallowed. He is swallowed by, they are all swallowed by the Vishwarupa Ishvara, whose mouth is Agni Tattva. Yasya Vasteyam Abdihi, whose lower abdominal portion, the abdominal region, is the ocean, the vast ocean. And then, Yasya Antastam Vishwam. You see, we have a lot of microbes in our body. Every one of us have microbes inside our body. We have a lot of good bacteria and bad bacteria inside our stomach, right? And microbes all over, who keep doing their work. Just the same way, the Vishwarupa Ishvara, Vishnu, he also has a lot of microbes, a variety of microbes inside his body, and his body being the entire universe, the entire cosmos itself. And what are those microbes? All the living beings in all the lokas, they are all like the microbes in the body of Mahavishnu, of the Vishwarupa Bhagavan. And what are those microbes? Some of them are described here. Sura, Nara, Kaka, Go, Bhogi, Gandharva, Daityaihi. Sura means the deities, the devatas, the gods. Nara means human beings. Kaka, Kaka, Kaga means birds. Go means cattle. Bhogi refers to the snakes. Gandharva, all the Gandharvas. Daityaihi, the Asuras. So you have all superior and inferior living beings occupying the body of the Lord, whose body is Tribhuvana Vapusham. Tribhuvana Vapusham. Chitram Ram Ramyate, and whose body is Chitram Ram Ramyate. It shines extraordinarily. Such a wonderful body he has. Definitely it will shine because his body is all decked up with nakshatras. So his body will have a wonderful divine shine. And to have the vision of this Ishvara, the Vishwarupa Ishvara, the most convenient thing for a bhakta is that there is no problem of Jargandi. There is no need to stand in queue for 3-4 hours and then enter the Vaikuntham queue complex. And then you hardly, with all the push and pull, you hardly get a few seconds to look at him, and you are pushed away from him again. And there is no need. So when can you have the darshan of Ishvara, Vishwarupa Ishvara? Whenever you open your eyes. And for an Ekarupa Bhakta, he felt bad that he was pushed away from God. Now, for a Vishwarupa Bhakta, the joy is he can never be away from God. And this is for that matured mind. So, wherever you go, it is Vishwarupa Vishnuhu. And by chanting this shloka as the last shloka of his composition of his wonderful work, namely Shrutisara Samuddarana, Totakacharya offers namaskara to Vishnu for having given a wonderful guru to him, like Adi Shankaracharya. So he was blessed with Adi Shankara himself being his guru. And here the sadhaka, we all pray that we are blessed with a guru, like how Totaka was blessed. And as we chant this shloka, and this shloka is followed by chanting of the most powerful Dvadashakshari mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It has 12 alphabets. Dvadashakshari mantra. Next shloka. Shantakaram bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gagana Sadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmikantam Kamalanayanam Yogi Hridyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanaatham Vande Vishnum. I do namaskara to that Vishnu. What kind of Vishnu? His description is given. Who has Shanta Akaram, a calm form, a very calm form, Shanta Akaram. Bhujaga Shayanam. He reclines on the Adi Shesha, Sheshanaga. Then Padmanabham, who has lotus in his navel. Suresham. Suraha means Devatas. Ishaha means the Lord. Suresham means who is the Lord of all the Devatas. Vishwadharam. He is the support of the entire universe. Without him, the universe has no existence. Gagana Sadrisham. Gaganam means space. Sadrisham means like. It is compared. He is all pervasive like the space. Gagana Sadrishaha. Gagana Sadrisham. Megha Varnam. His complexion, his Varna, is like the dark clouds. Shubhangam. And all his anga, his limbs are auspicious. Shubha means auspicious. Lakshmi Kantam. He is the spouse of Lakshmi Devi. His wife is Lakshmi Devi, who is always beside him, who is always in his Vakshasthala. Kamala Nayanam. He has eyes like the lotus petals. Now, one has to be very careful in, because these are dhyana shlokas, you when you are given to visualize the dhyanam, the form, a description is given, adjectives are added to each and every limb of Ishvara, every organ of Ishvara in his given form. When you say lotus like petals, Kamala Nayanam means lotus petaled eyes. So, you do not imagine the lotus petal itself here, it is the shape of the eyes which is beautiful and soft and nice. So, it is like that, that is how the visualization has to happen, and he is Yogi Hrid Dhyana Gamyam, who is recognized by all the yogis, by the jnanis in their heart through meditation. Yogi Hrid Dhyana Gamyam. Bhava Bhaya Haram, he is the remover of Bhava Bhaya, of samsara bhaya, the fear caused out of samsara. He is the haram, he is the haraha, he is the remover. Sarva Loka Ekanatham, he is the one Lord of all the lokas, of all the worlds. Now, in these descriptions, we have seen the description of Vishwarupa Ishvara in the previous shloka, Bhuf Padav, and even here it shuttles, this shloka shuttles between the Ekarupa and Anekarupa Rupa also. So, when one is visualizing or meditating on Vishwarupa, especially this, the previous shloka that we saw, Bhuf Padav, one can have a doubt. The way the description is given, the way one is led to visualize the universal form of Ishvara, one can have a doubt. Now, the pada is told as the earth, and the nabhi is the space. The eyes are one Surya and the other Chandra, and the second eye is close to the pada, which is earth. Okay? And you have all the limbs, various parts. So, the upper lokas are the head, and you have a description like this. Now, a human mind which is very attached to the Ekarupa worship can have a trouble here in visualizing, because there is a tendency to somehow bring it into one form. Okay? One can wonder what kind of form this would be, where the legs and the eyes and the stomach and everything is, what kind of a form should I visualize? Now, understand that Vishwarupa is not a particular form again, because for that mind that is used to visualize Ekarupa, there is a tendency to again bring Vishwarupa in one form. That is why we have a photo of Vishwarupa with one body, with as many heads as possible and as many hands as possible. Because of this tendency only, we have this nature of bringing Vishwarupa in one form. Okay? Vishwarupa means the universal form, which means everything that you see and experience around you, including your body and mind itself, is the body of the Lord, is the Lord himself. Therefore, this is the attitude that one has to graduate slowly from confining to one particular form. The mind expands to see Ishvara in every form meaning the universal form of the Almighty, who is all pervading, who is in everything, and who is as everything as well, because we saw that he is the Upadana Karana of this Jagat. Should not forget the earlier classes. Upadana Karana means he is the material cause of this Jagat. We had the pots and all to explain this. I hope you remember that class as well. So, we move on to the next shloka. Megashyaman pita kausheyavasam श्रीवत्साङ्कं कौस्तुभोद्भासिताङ्गम् पुण्योपेतं पुण्डरीकायताक्षम् विष्णुं वन्दे सर्वलोकैकनाथम्. The ending of the shloka is much similar to the previous one. Vishnum Vande Sarvaloka Ekanatham. I salute, I do namaskara to Vishnu, the all-pervading Vishnu, who is Sarvaloka Ekanatham. He is the one Lord of all the lokas, and his description is given in this shloka as well. So these are all different shlokas for meditation. One can use all these shlokas to meditate, or one can simply take any one shloka also to meditate. And you have the descriptions in Ekarupa as well as Anekarupa or Vishwarupa in different shlokas. Megashyaman. This is a description of the Ekarupa. Megashyaman means his skin is dark like the rain clouds. Pita Kausheya Vasam, who wears Pitambara, yellow silk garments. Shrivatsangam, who has the mark of Shrivatsa in his chest. Kaustubodbhasitangam, his chest is shining, is radiant and bright with the Kaustuba, which is a gem which is there in his necklace. The Kaustuba is a gem which came as one of the items that came out of the churning of the ocean. The Amrita Manthanam, it was part of the churning of the ocean, and one of the precious items that came out of the ocean was this Kaustubam, which was handed over by all the Devatas to Mahavishnu himself. So his chest is shining with the Kaustubam as the jewel, a center jewel in his necklace. Punyopetam Pundarikayataaksham. Now we will see Pundarikayataaksham first. Pundarikayataaksham means he has long eyes like the petals of the lotus, and he is Punya Upetam. Punya Upetam means, Punyam means, you know, Punya. Punya Upetam means what? This Upetam here has two meanings. Punya Upetam can mean he is the embodiment of all our Punya. That is one meaning that one can take. The other meaning is he is the one who is attained through Punya. Punya Upetam. So both meanings are there. To such a Vishnu, who is Sarvaloka Ekanatham, Aham Vande. I do namaskara. I worship. Next. Namas samasta bhutanam adi bhutaya bhubhrite aneka rupa rupaya Vishnave Prabha Vishnave Namaha Vishnave Prabha Vishnave. Namaha Vishnave. I do namaskara to the all-pervading principle Vishnu. Sarvam Veveshti iti Vishnuhu, who is all-pervading. Prabha Vishnave, who is the Lord Vishnu. Samasta Bhutanam. And what kind of Vishnu he is? Samasta Bhutanam Adi Bhutaya. He is Samasta Bhutanam Adihi, meaning he is the cause of all the things and beings. and also he is Bhubrith. Bhubrithe means He Bhubrith. Bhubrith. Bhubrith means, Bhu means earth, Brith means the sustainer. Aneka Rupa Rupaya, and he is being the sustainer of this earth, being the cause, the Nimitta Upadana Karana of this Jagat, not only this earth but of the entire universe. He is, and he cannot be, being all pervading, being limitless, he cannot be one form, therefore he is Aneka Rupa Rupaya. He has manifold forms. He who has manifold forms. To that Vishnu Aham Namami. The last two shlokas of Dhyanam. Chayayam parijatasya Hema simhasanopari Asinam ambudashyamam Ayataksham alankritam Chandrananam chaturbahum Shrivat Sankita Vakshasam Rukmini Satya Bhamabhyam Sahitam Krishnam Ashraye. Now these two shlokas are one sentence, because the first shloka does not have any verb and the description continues in the second shloka and ends with the verb. Aham Krishnam Ashraye. I surrender to Krishna. And what kind of Krishna he is? The description is given, a beautiful description which is very meditative as well, being part of the Dhyana shloka. Chayayam parijatasya. In the shadow of the parijata vriksha. Chaya means shadow. It doesn't mean tea, okay? In the chaya of the parijata tree. The shade of parijata tree. And what is there in the shade of the parijata tree? Hema simhasana upari asinam. Hema simhasanam meaning golden seat, the golden throne. He is seated, he is asinam on upari, on the golden simhasana, Hema simhasana. So under the shade of the parijata vriksha there is a golden throne and Krishna is seated on the golden simhasana. And how does he look like? Ambudashyamam. He has a complexion which is akin to the rain-bearing clouds, the dark rain-bearing clouds. And ayataksham, he has long beautiful eyes. Alankritam, he is wearing beautiful ornaments, very, very precious, with precious gems and very well designed, well made ornaments. And how does his face look like? Normally dark skinned people are attributed to dull looking, but he is not dull looking, he is Chandra Ananam. It is a misconception that you don't look good if you are dark skinned. Okay, all the best looking heroes of our Puranas are all dark skinned. Okay, so Krishna was dark skinned, Arjuna was dark skinned, and Rama was dark skinned. So, and the most beautiful looking Draupadi was dark skinned. So, it is a myth that dark skinned people don't look good. In fact, according to the Samudrika Lakshanam, only dark skinned people can wear gold. Okay, if you are white skin, you are not supposed to wear gold. Okay. So if you have gold, don't wear it if you are white skinned. Chandra Ananam. Chandrananam means his face, despite being of that complexion of the rain bearing cloud, he doesn't look gloomy. He doesn't look cloudy and gloomy. His face is as bright as the moon, Chandra Ananam, and Chaturbahum, he has 4 arms. And his chest, Shrivatsankita Vakshasam. This Shrivatsa is the mark of on his chest when Maharishi Bhrigu kicked him on his chest. You know, there is a Purana story which comes in Bhagavatam, and which explains, this goes to explain that how compassionate he is. Despite Maharishi Bhrigu, who got angry with Vishnu and he kicked Mahavishnu on his chest, Mahavishnu did not get angry on him. He said, "Did I hurt you? You kicked me. Did something hurt you?" So he is so compassionate. When his Shrivatsa is described, that is what that comes to the mind of the Bhaktas. And such a compassionate Lord he is. Shrivatsankita Vakshasam. And is he sitting alone there under the Parijata tree? No. Rukmini Satyabhamabhyam Sahitam Asinam. He is sitting with Rukmini and Satyabhama, I suppose both on either sides of him, and he is seated under the Parijata Vriksha. To that Krishnam Aham Ashraye, I surrender to Tayar Sameta Perumal. I surrender to that Krishna. So this is the last Dhyana Shloka, and the Dhyana Shloka section, with this, the Dhyana Shloka section which is normally chanted before, traditionally chanted before the chanting of Vishnu Sahasranama is completed. And in the next class, we will begin with the Sahasranama Shlokas. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Hari Om. We will meet